Hello, triple students, mostly year nines. Hope you're all okay. We're going to do, moving on from the kidneys, we're going to talk about other kidney-based things and the hormone regulation of water concentration in the blood. So what's the link here? We've got a cup of coffee, yummers, and we have got a series of covered labelled late 90s popular drinks. I can tell that because Alco Pops were a thing in the 90s. And we've got some Strongbow there, some Budweiser. What's the link? Have a little think, maybe pause. Say it out loud. I'm sitting here talking to my computer. You should probably sit there and talk to your computer. Let's all be a bit strange together. Hope you had a little thought. Quite a lot of the time people say, oh, these dehydrate you. So why do people say that? Well, there's kind of all of them contain liquid for sure, but they do affect a part of your brain that is responsible for controlling water levels, water concentration in your blood. So let's crack on with what we're doing. So today, ADH is the thing, antidiuretic hormone we're going to be looking at, and the kidney. Next time you have a wee, have a look at your urine. If you are producing yellow or dark urine, you're dehydrated. You need to go and drink some water. You should be drinking about 2 litres of water a day. A lot of people don't. And that's quite a lot of the time why they're hungry, grumpy, tired, have a headache, all those things. So go for a wee and check your wee. So we need to talk about ADH. We need to know the feedback of ADH, how it affects your collecting duct, and how caffeine and alcohol affect the production of urine. Okay, so on average, how much does a person produce in a day? Well, it entirely depends on the person, doesn't it? Go and find out. It's 1.5 to 2.5 litres a day, which means also you should be drinking at least 2 litres a day, at the very least. Okay, osmoregulation. Let's break down this word before we do anything else. Osmo, remember when we're talking about osmosis, is the movement of water. Osmo means water. Regulation, keeping it the same, keeping a regular amount. Science is half breaking down words, okay, and using good language, because it's like learning another language. So learn how the language works and you'll be fine. So osmoregulation is the control of water and salt levels in the body. I want to use the word concentration instead of the word levels, because the examples are really picky about the word concentration. Okay, so let's look at the phrase cleaning the blood. So all of the blood in your body moves through your kidneys once every 5 minutes. It filters out glucose, mineral ions, urea, and water. Remember, urea is a waste product that's toxic if you don't get rid of it. Some glucose enters the kidneys but is then reabsorbed into your body by selective reabsorption. So the amount of water and mineral ions that are absorbed varies, and that's selective reabsorption. If you have glucose in your urine, it means that you probably have a problem like diabetes, etc. Okay, so metabolism produces waste. Remembering that metabolism is the sum of all of the chemical reactions in your body. They produce nitrogenous waste, urea, which is transported in your bloodstream. It goes to the kidneys, which removes the waste from your blood, and it adjusts the amount of salt, water, and glucose, etc. The kidney sends the waste to your bladder to be excreted as urine. So if you have an excess concentration of water in your blood, you will filter it out into your kidneys and you will excrete it as urine. So urine is made of water, urea, and salt. He's intently staring at that, isn't he? Okay, so if via percentages, urine is majority water. Why remove water and salts? Have a little ponder. Homeostasis. We need to keep all of these things the same. If we have a too high amount of salt in our blood therefore is hypertonic, isn't it? So water is going to move out of your cells via osmosis. Really good link. Always thinking about osmosis in your cells and things like that. We've already gone through the urine colour chart. There it is again. Here is an anatomy of the kidney diagram. You might want to pause this. I would just sketch it, to be honest. Pause it and sketch it. So we went through this before. So we have the two regions, two main regions. Then we've got the renal artery, that's blood in, renal vein, that's blood out. And then we have the urinal pelvis, which is the part that transports the urine into your ureter, into your bladder, and then it comes out via your urethra. Okay, so this area there where we've got the medulla and all those like sort of beige, brown coloured lines, that's where you get the nephrons, and that's where you get the selective absorption. This is looking a little bit nicer. So the medulla is where all of the good stuff happens. So antidiuretic hormone and water balance, that's ADH. Now, see how I've aggressively chopped out the word amount. The concentration, you have to say concentration. If you say amount, you won't get any marks. So the concentration of water in your blood is maintained at a constant level. This is done by negative feedback. So remember, if one goes up, the other one goes down, which means the other one has to go back up again, etc. It's a continuous loop. Involving ADH. So where is ADH secreted? Now, ADH is a hormone, so therefore it travels in the blood, but where is it secreted from? Well, receptor nerve cells monitor the concentration of dissolved solutes in the bloodstream. If the blood is too concentrated, lots of ADH is secreted from the pituitary gland. Remember, that's the one in the brain, the master gland. And that stimulates the reabsorption of water. So low water in the blood is concentrated, low concentration of water, high concentration of other things, ADH is secreted, which causes the kidneys to reabsorb more water. It's like, don't waste it, don't get rid of it in urine, which makes your urine more concentrated. If the blood is too dilute, small amounts, so that means as in there's a high concentration of water, only a bit of ADH is secreted from the pituitary gland, so it slows the reabsorption of water, meaning that you produce lots of urine. So more urine ends up leaving your kidneys and going into your bladder. Here's a really nice diagram of those nephrons. And so we've got the top, the Bowman's capsule, so that's where blood comes in. All of the glucose and water and salts and urine is absorbed into the nephron, so into the convoluted tubule, and then it is reabsorbed. A lot of it is reabsorbed when it goes through the loop of Henle. Anything that ends up in this collecting duct, the big circular, the one that's been circled in red, that's what's going to your bladder. If your body has lost a lot of water, then your urine will be very pale. That means you haven't had any ADH released from your pituitary gland. But if your body has very little water in it, it will produce concentrated urine. It means that there's a lot of ADH saying to your kidneys, reabsorb, reabsorb. What is that? That's gross. That's your pituitary gland. That would have had more impact if the word pituitary was all on one line, I'm sure. So your pituitary gland is in your hypothalamus, just to remind us. And so here is the process. Okay, so let's say you are dehydrated, which means that you have a low concentration of water and a high concentration of solutes in your blood. And when we say you have a low concentration of water in your blood, we say that your water potential is low, or you have a lower water potential, essentially. So your osmoreceptor cells in your hypothalamus lose water, so they shrink. It stimulates the nerve cells. ADH is produced, and that causes the kidneys to reabsorb more water. Ooh, look at this. This is quite high level stuff, this. So there's my ADH. Goes into your kidneys. This is very much A-level stuff. Don't worry about this too much. So this has low water potential, this has high water potential. So the water goes back into your blood. Here's some questions. You might want to pause this and go and find out the answers to these. So one, alcohol is known as a diuretic. It inhibits ADH production, so it stops ADH being produced. Explain how drinking alcohol would affect the urine production of someone who'd been drinking. What is negative feedback, and why is osmoregulation an example of negative feedback? So I want you to explain about ADH. So have a little pause. Look at that. I'm loving this. I haven't gone through the answers that were on the previous slide because I thought they would be on the next slide, and they're not. But remember, if ADH is being inhibited, ADH is what makes the kidneys reabsorb. So if ADH is being inhibited, it means that you will be producing more water in your urine. So there's like a phrase that people use when they're drinking, or if they've drunk quite a lot. It's like, oh, I've broken the seal, which means they'll keep going to the toilet again and again and again, and that does happen because you are not saving any of the water. So this is a really beautiful diagram. Beautiful. It's not a watercolor. This is a picture of how water potential or water concentration in the blood is controlled by negative feedback. So if we've got lots of water in the blood, Osmoreceptors release less ADH, which means that the kidneys or the collecting duct becomes less permeable or absorbs less water, which means that there's less gone into the blood, so you urinate more, etc. So you might wish to have a little copy of that bad boy. Here is something where we can look at putting things in the correct order. Now, again, this is going quite detailed on the language here, but I think you can probably read through these and go, okay, this sounds like. So don't worry about the enzyme action. We don't need to know about phosphorylase at this point. Pause it, have a go. Osmoreceptors are going to detect low water content. ADH is produced, secreted into the capillaries. So ADH is detected in receptors in the collecting duct, which makes them, oh, don't worry about the enzyme, which makes them more permeable to water. So water diffuses down and then into the collecting duct, and you wee more. It's quite a high skill vocab in there. So I collect this from lots of different places. I would not worry too much about this, but if you can describe these, then that's pretty amazing. But don't worry about co-transporter, aquaporins, or podocytes. You don't need to know those. I forgot to delete this one. Don't want you to be confused. Oh, and that phosphorylase is our enzyme. We know it's an enzyme because it's got A's at the end of it. So ignore this slide. Have a lovely day. Go and get a snack. You probably deserve it.